Welcome back to another episode of Evil Man. Yeah.
Chris, it's so good to see you once more in person.
Yeah, we're in persons.
It's been a while since we've done this in person.
That's the thing.
But sadly, we've lost James. No longer part of the podcast.
James died over Christmas.
But if you have to die at any time of year, Christmas is the what?
Oh my God.
I'm here. I was just setting up the phone
Oh my God, that
Wow.
scared
to
the crap
tape
out of me.
us for YouTube.
And also,
It's a Christmas miracle.
welcome back, James. But also, we're joined by a fourth. It's our good friend Andrew Johston, who's back from Los Angeles, California.
Ho, ho, ho. It's been a little over a year, but we're doing it again.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
I smell a tradition.
Yeah.
I smell a tradition.
Yes.
When you come home for the holidays,
We
you
smell
bother us.
Oh, you could take that, flip it, and reverse it, Missy Elliott. Excuse me. Oh no, you are barking
You
up
bother
my
us
tree.
with the most pleasures all ours. I was actually really excited that you're on. You're so fun, and last time was so fun.
Andrew's a great guest.
And
my
I said
God,
it was
thank
Christmas
you.
off the top, but this is coming out. It's not going to be even
January
near
9th.
Christmas.
It's coming out Christmas.
We're doing it.
Next Christmas.
We're doing this as we live and breathe right now. It is New Year's Eve.
yeah.
That's right.
Yeah,
And
the eve of New Year's Eve.
But you can ask these guys. I was genuinely excited today, saying Andrew's on, and it's always really fun. And you also say nice complimentary stuff about us, which is nice.
Well, we'll see. We'll see.
I think I
after
already
that.
ruined that part,
that
but
little bait and switch.
I blew it.
Yeah.
Don't you think I look nice?
Yes, I do. I do. Well, we're wearing. You can. Well, we are taping this.
We look similar.
We are wearing green plaid.
Yeah.
you guys are all platters except
Yeah.
for me.
Green
Oh,
plaid.
true.
Yeah, we're city platters.
Yeah.
City plaid boys. And you have a fisherman's hat you just bought at the store.
Yeah, I got a Diet Coke and a hat.
Arg. I loved you in Great Big C.
Oh, I'm Canadian.
Great big
AF.
C, UNT.
C exactly. Great Big C.
Oh
Chris.
my God.
Great Big C UNT.
Great big see you next Tuesday.
Yeah.
But I'm Canadian AF. I go to the store, and I get a Diet Coke and a toque.
All
Nothing
out
more
the
Canadian.
usual.
Nothing
Yeah.
more Canadian than a Diet Coke.
Is that what you got literally at the corner store?
Yeah.
Oh my God, you bought
I'm telling
that?
you, that corner store here is the best because we're back at Ba Bazaar on Roncesvalles, thanks to Sophia. So there you go. Ba Bazaar, Roncesvalles, best little shop in town.
Yeah.
I cannot believe that I don't feel a haunting presence in here.
It has.
You don't.
Yeah.
I don't at
Andrew?
all.
It's
they
clean,
must
right?
smudge it at least weekly.
I have a
Good
question
call.
for you. It's
Yeah.
interesting you said you can't believe you don't feel a haunting presence. Have you been in
No.
a house or anywhere where you felt a haunting presence?
No,
have
I
you ever
didn't.
seen a ghost?
No.
Oh God, let's get into it.
Can I
Yes.
just say I'm having a deja vu right now? Did we talk about this last time?
I remember we talked
I
about
don't know.
rural Ontario towns' guys' dick sizes,
Okay.
but I don't remember talking about ghosts.
Also,
well, I
the
frequently
subject.
have a deja vu about that, but
Yeah.
I just feel that I've had this conversation in a podcast with people that I really enjoy, so I feel it must have been you. And no, I've never had a direct
Told you he's nice.
experience. Yes, I've never had an I've never had an experience where I felt a haunting, but it's because I think that I intimidate them. I think that they.
I can see that.
Intimidate the dead.
You
I
give
do.
ghost shit.
I just don't. I think I take up too much space, and I don't think there's any left for a haunting.
But
so I think
for
that they
our
move
listeners
on.
out there,
they're released.
do not discount Andrew as a non-mystical man connected with like mystical elements
I
of
know where this is
the
going.
mysterious universe.
Yeah.
We were just talking. He's dead set on everything that's happening right now could easily be predicted by astronomy.
You know,
Astrology.
Astrology.
You know, you know the expression "written in the stars." Well,
I knew stars were involved somewhere.
Yes,
What kind is it though, of astrology?
Okay, so I am a bit of a moon maiden as of the last, let's say half year. And that I've gotten into something called evolutionary astrology. And it is not, as I said, I'm not going to mention the person that we were talking about, whatever. But it's not sort of like, what's your sign? That means that you'd be compatible with this and that you and James. It's
I'm
to
Pisces
look-
with the Aquarius moon.
Oh, you know that. And what is
Just
your
last
ascendant?
night at the party we were at, a lady was asking, I Googled my date that I was born and I was a crescent moon and it said it was Aquarius.
Do you know your birth time?
I do, but I didn't check that yet on the chart. But it was like literally just I just missed being March 6th, and it went into March 7th. So it was like an hour into March 7th.
If you can determine, if you actually can ascertain your exact birth time, place, and date, you can find out your exact astrological profile, your sun, moon, and rising sign, and the rising. If it's off by 15 minutes, it changes everything, like your ascendant.
I believe in it.
Yeah,
I'm an Aries. I was born April 17th at like after school, at like 3:30, and it was in Quebec. So I think my sign was a cigarette.
there you go. Yeah,
I don't know what that is.
it was a cigarette.
It was,
It was a cigarette and a cheese curd. It was, but yeah, no. So I'm, for instance, I'm a Gemini sun and I'm a Cancer moon and a Cancer rising. But yeah, so if you know if you can get access to your actual birth time, then you can get your natal chart, which is what it's called, which will show you what the
And do
market.
you agree
of
with
light
yours?
was. Well, I don't think I have a choice. Yeah, I always would read like Gemini horoscopes because I am, June 4th is my birthday, so I'm firmly in the Gemini sun, and sometimes they speak to me, sometimes they don't. But there's an app. Actually, she's a Canadian astrologer. She's really the top of her game. Named Channy Nicholas from Vancouver.
Hi.
The Channy app will give you
Channy.
bespoke. Yeah, do you have it?
No, but I'm saying hi, Channy. if
Hi,
she's
Channy,
listening.
yeah.
Can you guys hold on for 1 sec?
Sure.
Mom, what exact time was I born? ?
oh shit.
Wait a second.
So we might get this.
Why did you say mom?
live.
Because I'm texting her.
Is that
Oh.
Siri? Did you call
No, it's not
Siri,
Siri.
Mom? Oh.
It's my mom.
Yeah, I wanted to know.
Even, I do get them mixed up sometimes.
Yeah.
Mom, play Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Okay, Christopher.
Blood Sugar Sex Magic.
Give it away! Give it away! Give it away now!
It's my mom singing it though.
Give it away! Give it away! Give it away! Yeah.
In grade 8, I had the best
no, we're talking
birthday party ever. We'll go back, but like, my mom made the cake and she said around 1 a.m. Around.
The end of SNL.
That's not good enough.
Hey,
right?
wait! While
Yeah.
while we have your mom on the line, is there anything else we want to ask her? It's just a good opportunity.
Anyone?
What
What's my
was
problem?
What was Chris like as a boy?
Mom, comma. What was I like as a boy? ?
Shit.
I'm doing astrology and a podcast right now.
Well,
This
Okay.
is exciting.
Here we go.
I do have a question for
But
you,
she
Andrew.
wrote in icing Red Hot Chili Peppers on my birthday cake, and I was so embarrassed.
As a kid?
Yeah.
Was it the cocks and the socks? What was it that spoke to you about the RHCPs?
I think it was part of that. The freedom. Obviously, you guys have seen me. Sometimes I take my shirt off on stage.
Oh,
I
hell
like
yeah.
the freedom of. I liked, and I was becoming a teen. I was 13, so I think I was.
And they're from California, which I think that's why you moved to
Californication.
California.
Yeah.
Well,
And
sometimes
you're
I
looking for
feel
them.
like I don't have a partner. Sometimes I feel like my only friend is the city I live in.
Have
City
you
of
seen the
Angels.
bridge? Have you seen the bridge?
Which bridge is that?
I don't know.
Just the
Anthony
one-
lived under it, and he ate
I've
chips there. or
I've
whatever.
driven over the LA River, and so I feel like I know the
For
region.
sure. For sure.
Well, so we
Glendale.
we were recording this
Yes.
right after, sadly, former President Jimmy Carter died,
Yes.
and you said
Carter, you were a
that
martyr.
this might have something to do with astrology. and
No,
there
okay,
might be
so
more bad news coming.
To just okay. All right, let's get into
Can I
it.
just say my mom said exactly as you are now, but shy.
Oh, God! I wonder when and how you came out of your shell.
Still shy.
Yeah, still shy. So evolutionary astrology is basically looking at various transits and historical events that they were the backdrop to sort of, because the expression history doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes.
Yes.
So this is where that would sort of come into it. So Pluto has just entered Aquarius for the first time in since I guess the last time that this was in recorded history was during the French Revolution and American Revolution.
Okay.
And the Industrial Revolution as well. So you've got, can you hear the people sing, etc. Other backdrops would be Henry VIII, the Reformation period, where the Catholic Church's stranglehold on just Europe was toppled, and Nero during Rome, Nero's reign
so
during
times
Rome
of
as well.
major change and
Yes,
upheaval.
major change and upheaval. And so when I saw Pluto entered Aquarius at some point in November, and it was basically the exact same week that Luigi Mangione rose to fame, had his star breakout moment, assassinating that healthcare CEO, and the Syrian dictator was toppled. And I was just like, this is Pluto into Aquarius right on cue, like stereotypically.
I'm
so.
super psyched about this stuff. I think it's cool that you know all that.
Well,
Do you think that when the CEO was shot, just his last thought was like, "Oh no, Pluto's entering Aquarius." I should've stayed
AKA
out.
Aquarius is my head and Pluto is a bullet.
Yeah, right. Yeah, yeah, basically. No, I don't think so. I think that his last thought was money, 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 money,
Ouch.
money, 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 money. And
Hey, where's my brain on the ground over there? I don't know why he talked like that.
You know what's
but-
crazy though? When he did pull the trigger,
Mm.
and it was the bullet went in slow motion, and the beginning of Bulls on Parade played in the sky. How crazy is that? It went. Bam, bam,
Is that another
bam,
Red Hot
bam.
Chili Pepper song?
No, that's Rage.
Oh,
Rage Against the
Machine.
Chili
oh,
Pepper.
Rage Against the
So I
Chili
was looking
Peppers.
up what you said, and I got a message from an angel. So I got to sign up for another thing to get a message from an angel. But this is my stuff.
Oh,
This is your chart?
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
you did it. You looked it up. What are you? It says you. What I don't
Does
know
that
where
make
it says.
sense? You got to scroll down a bit.
Oh,
I think.
you are a Pisces.
Yeah, big time.
What is the
We're sensitive.
Chinese-
We're creative.
zodiac sign?
He's
of the
Chinese.
Horse?
Chris, you're
Well, no,
Chinese
his
this year.
Chinese his Chinese zodiac sign of the horse. I'll bet it is.
Oh
Yeah.
as in
Oh, you're
hung like
Capricorn
one?
moon, and then you are. Well, what the fuck is your ascendant? I don't.
Yeah, what the fuck did your
Maybe
mom?
that.
Your mom didn't fucking tell us.
We'll look this up, and when we come
Yeah.
back after our break, we will
Okay.
try and ascertain what all of these fellas,
I think we
sun,
should.
moon, and rising
So,
signs.
I
are.
really like how into this you are
Luigi
and knowledgeable
Mangione.
of it.
You look to the stars. I had my birth chart read by a yoga witch. I did-
Really?
Well, there is
You don't get that in Canada.
I'm sorry if I'm outing you, Maddie, but her name is Maddie Jo Landers. She's a former actor. She was on Boardwalk Empire, and now she is a full-time astrologer and yoga teacher. And so she did a thorough birth chart reading and walked me through my transits for the next year, because I just said, listen, this May, it felt like the writer's room of my life got a new showrunner, and I want to know if there
Wow.
can be some transits that explain that. And she said, yes, there certainly are, and she told me.
Just gonna jump in here, imagining what is it, Hamlet or Macbeth with the three witches around the
Macbeth?
The
and
brew,
imagine
double,
them
toil, and trouble.
all doing yoga. You said a yoga witch. Imagine them
Yep, that's right.
I won't be attending class that day.
doing a downward dog,
I'll
and they all have
just say-
nice butts and yoga pants.
Oh
but,
yeah.
but haggard faces because they're
He
witches.
just found her. She looks like a young Cameron Diaz.
She looks nice.
Yeah,
I would
she's-
trust anything
she's
she said.
wonderful. She's
Do you think she
wonderful.
read Steve Buscemi's chart?
Maybe
Boardwalk
I
Empire?
should ask her. I don't
Oh my
really think.
God.
I think she's really done with acting, though. I think that she's really over it. So
She's into something bigger and better, in my
Yeah,
opinion.
she is. She really.
So-
She's in the stars.
We're talking
Yeah.
about this lady. I want to get to a juicy subject. You
Yeah.
said you thought President-to-be Donald J. Trump wouldn't make it through 2025. Explain.
Well, evolutionary astrologers. So there's another thing called zodiacal releasing, which they sort of look at there are these cycles that they chart out, and right as the election was going, they're like, it's going to be a draw, folks. They both have really good charts, Kamala and Donald Trump. Kamala enters. A lot of the astrologers were predicting that Kamala would win because she enters her peak period of leadership as of this spring. That lasts for conveniently 8 years, and Donald Trump enters the peak period of his challenges in March of this year, which means they thought that would be that he would be on onslaught trial, going to prison, but that's not how
Right.
things turned out. So now things are going to be different. But he has an identical transit or aspect to what was in the sky when he was the first assassination attempt
So you
coming this April.
So you still believe, no
Yeah.
matter what, that the predictive beats in time can be manifested differently than predicted, but we still hit them.
We have free will, but it just, I don't know, once you start to sort of attune this, and not I don't journal Dear Diary, but I will put where I went, I have in my calendar today, went to do Evil Men at this time, then going to Brandon's birthday, to be because you will see things being there is a theme around this that correlates with this, and it's going to come to fruition at this point. What were you doing around this time? This time it would be and so I said this on Evil Men, and that got out into the world, and that, you can sort of, once you sort of
Yeah.
start thinking like that, then you can make this connective tissue.
It is witchcraft.
But sort of, but well,
I went to
Is
go
there
do
is
Evil
science
Men,
to it,
even though
though.
the moon told me not
Yeah,
to.
well, that's another. Do you know what it is today?
What?
It is a new moon in Capricorn,
What
as
is-
we live and breathe right now.
So what does that mean?
Set some intentions. Set some intentions.
Okay.
Oh.
Is that a coincidence, or does that happen every New Year? 'Cause people
No,
make
not at all.
resolutions? Okay.
Not at all. Not at all. Not at all. But I mean, there is science to it. There is science. They are fucking planets. They have transits. So but I mean, there's some times that it doesn't align completely. And I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about there. But there are some times like there's one astrological forecast that I follow who predicted two really big dates in my life, and that was when the date that my fucking green card was approved in 2017, and then the date that that resort in Cancun was shut up when I went to go. I'm like,
What?
Wait,
Yeah.
you were there when it was shot up?
oh my god, did you not know? Do you
No,
know?
no,
that?
no,
Dude, oh my
What?
God, we gotta
Burying
get
the-
to this while we're
Burying
still
the
in the
lead.
intro.
Okay,
You
let
were
me
in a
make this
resort that was
real
shot at?
short story. I did.
Take your time, paint a picture.
Okay, I'm not going to paint a picture. But so basically what happened is this is the fall of 2021. Not every A-lister is back on the scene and showing up for like every fucking gig. Like now these cruise ship gigs and these, gay resort destination things, like way bigger names are taking them because they need the money. But back then it was like, oh, they were looking for like new blood that they could pay bottom dollar. So anyway, so I got on the radar of one of these guys. The comic who was supposed to do it booked an episode of Hacks. And so everyone else said no on such short notice. So he calls me. He's like, is there any way that you could be down in Cancun in 48 hours? And I was just like, well, I guess this is my shot, so might as well shoot it.
And how long were you asked to do?
Oh, an hour.
An hour
An
in
hour.
Cancun?
And this is
God.
post-pandemic.
I would
when-
hate to be asked to do it.
So can
You
you,
haven't
fucking
been working
imagine?
on it. And,
You know,
yeah.
no, I didn't. No, I had just recorded my third album
Okay.
2 months prior, so at least there was some muscle memory. But you know, like an hour is a tall fucking order if you're out of practice. So
Especially in the heat.
yeah, well, what kind of heat here, Michael? Because let me tell you. So I go
Okay.
down. And a little backstory about this resort. It was the Cancun Hyatt Ziva or something like that, or in Puerto Morales. It had just reopened after years of being dormant. This was the first big, like, event that they had there, and it was a gay event. So where there are moneyed where there,
You're allowed to
Where-
say it's part of your culture.
yes, yeah, where there are moneyed homosexuals, they are going to want drugs.
Okay.
Because this
do
resort
you
had
say
just
that?
reopened. Yeah,
Can't
because
they have fun on
the turf
Yeah.
hadn't been, I think, or it was under dispute. So they were
How do
saying
you get drugs in Mexico?
So they were saying
doing a
to
little joke.
they were asking around to the staff. They're like, "Yo, muchacho, where do I get some?" So they call some friends of theirs from Cancun. So these two drug dealers are just doing the whole stroll and just making bank, making hay while the sun is shining. And this other cartel had claimed that as their turf, I guess, unbeknownst to these two drug dealers. So they'd clearly been given warnings. I land there. It's on a Thursday. I'm supposed to close the week the next night.
Yeah.
And that's another thing. If you're like a comic and you go down and you're the last event, it means you're supposed to roast the week. So I couldn't do that because I wasn't there. Anyway,
Yeah.
so I land and I get a text from the point person being like, so I think we just had like a fireworks display go off prematurely or something like that. So we're just trying to figure out what happened. So just sit tight at the airport. And I'm like, He's like, okay, so it wasn't a fireworks display. People think they heard gunshots, but we're just investigating. Anyway, so I go on Twitter at the time. And yes, what had happened was a flotilla of cartel members arrived in ski masks and AK-47s, balaclavas
God.
and AK-47s on a pontoon boat, stormed the beach to execute these two rival
It's like the landing
drug
on
dealers.
D-Day, but much darker.
Oh my god!
And more fun in a way
Well,
with the
yeah.
with the sort of gay men at the resort. It's
and
kind
it
of
being south of
fun.
the border,
Yeah.
More
Yeah.
like
you know.
sea day.
Yeah. So
See, senor.
yeah. Anyway, so they do 4 guests get shot. None of the guests get killed, but 4 of them are shot,
Holy
including
shit.
this one
God.
like porn influencer who I've
No!
No.
Not my penis!
follow.
No!
No, because then he was just like he was there to sort of like make content and
Is he okay
influence, but
now?
Yeah, I believe he still has the bullet in his back though, in his scapula. Anyway, because he was diving into the
God.
water and got shot. That's how fast it happened.
Wow, I got
So,
stung by a bee.
One of
Wait.
them was just
Oh my
shot
God.
full blown, and then the other one was maimed, and he ran into the resort, so the whole resort needed to go in lockdown. I heard all about this after the fact, and those 15 guys who stormed the beach got away.
Holy
Yeah.
wow.
So I finally
Okay.
get to the fucking hotel or whatever 5 hours after I land to see all of these like Mexican guardsmen with berets and AK-47s, and I'm
You
just like,
saw
well, it
this
seems like
aftermath.
yeah, and then
Hey, are you the funny man?
yeah. And then the next night, I needed to do an hour of out of practice comedy
Yeah.
for them. And so all I said was just like, I just got here last night. What did I miss? And then I just went
Boom.
like, dicks, 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 dicks,
Did you-
dicks,
Yeah.
dicks.
You didn't roast the pontoon and the AK-47s and the...
No, but I heard they had a bunch of like retired lesbian cops like as part of their staff. And so apparently what happened is like you had all these like surly retired lesbian police people like taking
I'm picturing them
orders
wearing
like we have right
uniforms
now.
that say lesbian cops.
Oh
on
no,
them.
they're just wearing like border shorts and fucking fucking like t-shirts. But like
Yeah.
they were taking audio cables and like like bolting doors shut, and they were just like, they're not getting in here, and
Jesus.
stuff like that.
This
it
is
was very-
amazing.
apparently, it was very.
So it was a gay
exciting.
cruise, but it was like,
It was a resort, so it was just like a
oh
sit-down
yeah,
thing. Yeah.
oh sorry, yeah.
But no one was killed.
Well, the two drug dealers were.
What, so the security on the beach killed some of the...
So the
no, the
cartel-
guys
Oh,
they
the guys
wanted
who
to
were selling
hit
drugs.
were hit.
They
They got
that's
away.
targeted.
Yeah,
I
the
see, I
targets
see.
were
And a
both
couple
hit,
of Andrew's
but
friends were caught in
well,
the
they
fire.
were not. I did not meet anyone who was, but I remember like the next day
Ugh.
too. We needed to all convene in the lobby to welcome them from
insane.
the hospital and clap for them.
Oh my
I was just
God.
like, okay, but yeah, and then but I did have.
Okay, I guess.
I did
Enter bangs, pots, and pans.
have a sort of like liaison with a couple from Manhattan afterwards, and they told me the whole. They told it was like a
Excuse me?
terrorist attack, basically.
Liaison.
Yes.
Did
This
you...
is actually the
That's-
more exciting
I don't-
part of the
I
story.
don't know if you could have guessed this, but on gay holidays, there's a lot of fucking.
Oh, you had the
That's
threesome with this
expressly what
couple.
they're there for.
You had a
Yes.
threesome. This is more exciting than the hit on the beach.
Can I ask, were people staying away from the beach after this, or was there so much security that it was like safer than ever after the shooting?
Yeah.
Lightning
No,
doesn't strike twice.
I remember my mother was just like, she was concerned. I'm like, Mom, the odds of this happening 2 days in a
Yeah,
row
the odds are so
to
slim.
nil.
Another
Yeah,
cartel
yeah.
comes.
Do you know who else was on this? I don't know if you ever watched American Idol.
Oh, I
But-
did.
so American Idol season 2, in which
William
Ruben
Hung
Studdard
came?
won. No.
Oh.
So the season that Ruben Studdard and Clay Aiken were on, the
Yep.
third place finisher Kimberly Locke, she was booked on this too. So I got to chat with her.
Oh,
Wow.
this is a.
So
Was
that
she
was really funny.
traumatized when you met her?
No, she seemed very fine. She wasn't on the premises when it happened. Apparently, she was on an excursion looking at some Aztec temples.
Now,
Was
how
this
did
a-
your shows go? Moving
It went
forward.
I remember being like, I was like, well, that was fine. I only got 3 applause breaks. And I'm like, oh, people just witnessed a terrorist attack.
yeah.
What's wrong
and
with
then
you people?
I never went back to that company never hired me again, and I thought that was really shit because I'm like, hi, I like showed up and didn't leave
Yeah.
after,
Yeah.
but I did order a lot of room service, but I thought I was entitled to it.
That's the thing they remember
Ah.
about that weekend.
Yeah,
that you
right.
ordered room service, not that.
Yeah,
there was
but
a
like now it's
terror
like,
attack.
oh girl, like I just looked at like who's doing their next cruise, and it's like Bianca Del Rio, Cheyenne Jackson, Jennifer fucking Holiday from the original cast of Dreamgirls. I'm like, oh, they're not getting, yeah, no, they've, those people are showing for the dollar now. I'm not part of the fucking
Right.
mix anymore. Yeah, so.
Well,
Dang. Well, what
Wild
an
story.
experience.
Yeah.
Like insane.
Yeah. Oh, so the point being,
But
my
astrology predicted it.
Yeah, she said on this date there is a very violent aspect, and like that's not language that she has ever used before. She's like, so you were going to need to
Wow.
be very careful. There is a violent aspect on this date.
you
and
told
that
her you
was
were
the
going to
exact fucking
Mexico.
day. I didn't tell her. It was just in like it was
Did-
on a it was on a bespoke thing that she'd written for my son's
That's
sign.
insane.
Did anything she
That's
say
wild.
predict the threesome?
Yeah.
No, not that I remember. Maybe
Was
she
the
was like,
threesome violent?
and that was I was about to say no, it wasn't at all.
Is
No,
there
it was
something
quite
you're-
low key actually.
Oh.
Well, they had just gone through
Very
basically
somber.
their version of 9/11.
So you were like cheering them up. You were like glad handing them.
Well, I guess you could call it that. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow, that's
Yeah, man.
nice of you.
Is there one thing in particular that you're looking to happen? You're predicting will happen in your life going forward in the next.
Yeah,
in the
you
next
predicted
year?
big, but what
Okay.
think?
Do you
Yeah.
want? Can I be like very flat with you? I think that there is war forecasted, geopolitical war forecasted for 2026.
Damn.
So.
Oh God, I gotta teach my daughters how to fly a spaceship. I think.
Well, I think you'll be fine here, but I think there is going to be like a geopolitical.
Hey,
I think
Hey, if
things
someone
are,
attacks Toronto,
yeah.
the three of us are not afraid to take up arms and die to defend this city.
yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I just filed for my U.S. citizenship, and that is a question that they ask. They say, like, you certify that you will take up arms on behalf of the United States, and I said yes.
And
Whoa.
I'm imagining that happening.
Yeah, you're just like, oh man, I just moved here. I have to go to like.
Would you be
I just
Navy, Army, or Air Force? What would you choose?
Whichever one has the most communal showering.
I just pictured
In
you.
the Navy. You can sail
I
the
just pictured
seven
you
seas.
throwing a grenade out of your living room window.
Yeah.
in Silver Lake.
Yes, yeah. I'm just sitting there in Silver Lake, just like,
Yeah.
You just
fucking
blew up my
Don't
expensive
even
tacos.
think about
yeah.
it. Shit.
Don't even think about it.
I think if you fully,
Biatch.
I've read if you fully immigrate to the States too, you have to say you renounce.
No.
I
Do
heard
you
an
know what you
interview.
do need to renounce? Titles. If you have any hereditary titles.
And you're
For
sir.
instance, if you were sir. Yeah, I'm lady. No, but if you are a sir, lady, dame,
Yeah.
Baron?
lord, you baron,
Holy
chic,
fuck.
something like that, you do need to renounce.
I heard
that.
an interview with
sucks.
Adnan Virk, and he said he was going to immigrate, but he didn't to the States because they told him he had to renounce that he was Canadian or something.
No.
Oh.
No. That's
You have to
he's a large
renounce
shit.
your love for Trudeau.
And you got to say, I don't really like the fucking hip. And then they let you live
know
in
what?
America.
Oh my god.
You know what? Wouldn't be a problem. Sorry. The
Was
late
there a
Gord
hip
Downey.
tribute band at the gay resort?
The Practically Hip? No. The Practically Hip was not present. You are slightly ahead by a decade or whatever. Yeah.
I feel like if you added
that would be
a
their
disco
parody.
beat to a lot of their hits,
No.
they would translate in a gay nightclub. I think that
No.
would happen.
You were thinking of Kiss.
Oh yeah.
Well, gentlemen, this was an excellent intro. Perhaps we should transition. We have a whole bonus to do at the end.
Oh, yeah.
Transition. While it's legal.
Before we get to this week's topic, we should mention that we have a Patreon account that you can find at patreon.com/evilmen. If you sign up and you give us a little bit every month, you get 2 bonus episodes a month. You get access to all our millions of old episodes that are so funny. You get to join our Discord and chat with us there, and you help us out, which is really nice, and we really appreciate it. We're going to record a bonus with Andrew after this. That's going to be excellent. So please check it out, patreon.com/evilmen.
Also, we have a special announcement to make. We are doing another Evil Men Live show at Comedy Bar West on Bloor Street in Toronto on January 25th, 7 p.m. Tickets are available on sale right now. Go to comedybar.ca. Comedybar.ca, that's it. That's all. And look
You
up
put the
Evil
link in
Men.
the notes.
Link in the notes, January 25th. And also, Andrew, you are just, or have you just released your new comedy album?
Not just, God, like August. And it's called Pomp
August.
and Circumcised, available everywhere.
Well, we'll put the link to that in the notes as well.
And one last thank you to Bob Bazaar for letting us record here. I'm talking Sophia. I'm talking Nicole. We love ya.
So, Andrew, for your second appearance here on Evil Men Podcast, starring Chris, James, and Mike,
Hey.
you reached out to me. You're like, "Hey, I'm going to be in the 6. I'd love to do the show again." I said, "That sounds so good. Who would you like to talk about?" And who did you choose for this week's subject, Andrew Johston?
Well, we floated this about a year ago when I chose Bruce MacArthur, which ended up being a very, perhaps misfire of the assignment.
No, it
Well,
was a great episode.
yeah,
It was a
so-
great episode.
Bad guy,
although
good
macabre.
episode.
Yeah,
Yeah.
bad
It
guy.
was excellent.
But I think I brought up a certain former member of Moxie Fruvis who might have had a chat show, a talk show on CBC radio, that I said, well, you've obviously done this person. And you said, no. And I said, well, you must. That must be my next episode. And that is Jian Ghomeshi.
It certainly is Jian Ghomeshi, a name well known to most Canadians. If you're listening from
I'm
abroad,
not laughing. I'm laughing at Mike, not the history of Jian Ghomeshi.
Listen,
Yes,
just
yeah.
understand that all the content warnings and everything applies, but this is more going to be a thoughtful rumination of the last gasp of ubiquity within the Canadian
Yes.
ecosystem. And I think that we'll probably talk about his lawyer, Marie.
But I
Hyman,
also
as well.
do love that both. Oh yeah, right. Deadly. But I also do love that you do Toronto locals.
I
Because
mean,
we go all over the world, but I think we should we're not innocent.
you support local talent, and that's what
yes,
is nice.
yes, I
Well,
always have.
Jean almost had the crossover with the with the U.S. market. I remember Q, I believe, was picked up on NPR briefly.
PRI?
Or PRI.
Yeah.
But he even, he did a live show in Chicago, I remember.
Yeah.
Like, he wasn't big in the States, but it was a rare, doing a thing in Canada, in Canadian media, and actually having and permeating into the States from there.
When there are people in the States who know about him and they've brought him up to me, they've said, because years ago, do you know who Kelly Catrone is? She was a fashion publicist, and she was featured on the show The Hills. So,
Okay.
And at one point she was dressing Grimes, who was doing an appearance on Q with Jian Ghomeshi, and Kelly Catrone on there says Grimes is going to be on the Canadian equivalent of what did she say? Of Ryan Seacrest. And so she called him the Canadian equivalent of Ryan Seacrest.
goodness.
And so someone asked me that. I'm like, no, he would be somewhere between the Canadian version of Carson Daly meets Terry Gross.
Terry Gross
Yes.
was what came to my mind as
Wow.
well.
Andrew,
So-
that is a perfect description.
Yeah, so if you don't know, he was like the biggest arts journalist, arts broadcaster in Canada, but he also, well, we'll get into it, but he was also a celebrity sort of in his own right a bit. And I'll just dive into his life right now. Obviously, stop and interject at any moment if you have something to say. So Jian Ghomeshi.
Can I just ask right now, before we get into it, raise your hand if you have personal experiences with Jian Ghomeshi.
Yes. I wrote a sketch for him on This Hour Has 22 Minutes that got radically rewritten.
I mean, we all, if you were kicking around the T.O. for a
Yes.
while,
Yeah.
you had a run-in with...
I didn't, but I've probably talked to 40 people who
Yeah.
all, prior to the things coming out about him, all said unanimously he's
Same.
a creep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had firsthand accounts said to me by friends, but I never came in contact with them.
How about you, Andrew? Did you ever meet him in person?
Several times. I when I worked at Mervish and I would attend opening night things for that, he would always be there. He went to the opening of an envelope. That was the other thing about him.
Was he at the
right?
opening of Titanic the musical?
Titanic? I don't know. That was well after my time. But he was definitely there. I can remember making pleasantries with him near a chocolate fountain. Let's say it was at the Priscilla Queen of the Desert premiere. But I also remember working the red carpet for Fashion Caras back when Fab Magazine, which was a queer monthly, RIP. And he was the one person, a publicist came up to me because I was killing it that night. And I was only talking to people of note. And they were like, Jian Ghomeshi's here. Do you want to talk to him? And I said, no.
Whoa!
Nice.
Whoa, dude.
Damn.
I was like, our readers will not be interested in this Canadian trash. Fuck you.
Probably totally true.
Well, on that note, I'll jump
Crazy.
into his life. So Jian Ghomeshi, background, he's a Canadian broadcaster, writer, musician, producer, and former CBC personality. He was initially famous, as we all know, for being a member of the Toronto comedy band Moxie Fruvis. In the 2000s, he became a TV and radio broadcaster, most notably as the host of CBC Radio 1 program Q, the flagship arts program, which he co-created and hosted from 2007 to 2014. In 2014, he was fired as allegations of sexual assault and harassment came out, for which he was eventually arrested. And as I was reading about him and putting these notes together, I had the thought that, more than anything, aside from his awful behavior, his story is sort of about how Canada worships and rewards mediocrity to the point that someone like Jian Ghomeshi can become almost untouchable.
I mean, it's really, and I would like to say that this is the last gasp of that, but I don't think it is. I mean, it's just hilarious about, especially having a little bit of a subjectivity about it now, or not subjectivity, but I guess just being removed from the country now to look back here and be like, how desperate this system is to exactly reward mediocrity, keep actual talent systematically second class, but trip over itself to accommodate bad behavior as some sort of a way. It's just so weird to me.
I'm going to come in with a slightly different take because
Please.
I agree with the overall thought. However, I have to be completely honest. I think Jean was really good as host of Q.
I agree.
I think he was excellent.
I agree.
There was he was the only kind of media star here in a way that in terms of a radio host. I guess it depends on your taste, but I think he was good.
I heard that he was extremely aggressively stupid, but he faked it very well because I thought he was a hell of an interviewer. But no, I heard it.
He had good researchers.
Yeah. But, he was able to parrot that research very fucking well. He always seemed right on top of it, so.
Well, history will judge, but I'll tell you about his early life. So We think of him as a damn Canuck, right? Well, wrong. Jian Ghomeshi was born June 9th, 1967, in London, England. He's a Brit born at the height of swinging London. Shagadelic, baby.
Whoa.
Twiggy.
Yes.
She would have been bringing the miniskirt to the masses.
The first song you ever heard was Sergeant Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. He was born to Iranian parents. His father was a civil engineer. Didn't have any information on his mother on Wikipedia. And his family moved to Canada in 1974 when Jian was age 7. They first lived in Toronto, eventually settling in the suburb of Thornhill, Ontario. He, according to Wikipedia, he visited pre-revolutionary Tehran twice as a child. That's good. That's good to see.
I wonder if he needed to don a headscarf because he had a very lush mane. Hair. I wonder
Yeah.
The religious
if they
police
said-
might have,
if they said to him, "We don't want anyone getting the wrong idea."
Mm-hmm. Well, there's nothing on Wikipedia about that. Anyway, he was born to a Muslim family, but they were secular, and they were initially optimistic about the 1979 Iranian Revolution. But they also celebrated Christmas and Easter, you know? And he grew up in a largely Jewish community in Thornhill. He was sadly bullied for his ethnicity by classmates who called him racist names. Sort of a bit of a Rudolph origin story here.
Yes. Well, I don't know as if Rudolph's story ended quite the same. I
Well,
mean, his
it's
nose was
yet-
certainly red by the end of it.
Yeah,
At least
well-
his face was. Are you getting to the point where he anglicizes his name to Jean?
Well, that will come in the
Okay.
Moxie Fruvus years, but
Sorry.
that's a little.
So what was his
I
name
did
at this
not
point?
know that.
His name was
Jian.
Jian.
Oh.
He attended Thornley Secondary School, and you can the personality he had. He was like a smooth guy. He was student council president in high school, which is like that type of personality, sort of like very good at talking, people pleaser, glad
I was
glad
never
handling.
friends with those kind of people when I was growing up.
Did anyone hold student government roles?
No.
Grade 9 rep. I was one of 2 grade 9 reps, and then I was so disillusioned by my experience in politics that I never participated again.
I was grade 8 valedictorian.
I'll bet you.
But being
were.
grade 8 is like, that's not that impressive.
I think it shows a lot of promise.
Thanks.
I was bad all the time, and to be honest, I think I'm still bad.
But I think you had sex earlier than us, so that's
Yeah, that's true.
I don't.
way,
I don't
that's-
think so. To be
No.
honest,
yeah,
That's
surely.
valedictorian of statutory.
statutorian.
Yeah, statutorian.
No, I don't think I did.
No, you had sex, young.
Come on.
You read like you did.
I got. Anyways,
No, say it.
this James has come alive. No, you say it. You say it first.
I think I was maybe 17.
Yeah, you beat me.
Yeah. Actually, honestly, I'm being honest. I don't remember if it was 17 or very early at 18.
There was a girlfriend in grade 9 who wanted to have sex with me, and I got too scared, and I broke
Mhm.
up. Grade 9, I was
yeah.
not
Oh,
ready.
that's young. That's really young.
Yeah, so I didn't do it that young, but I had. Yeah,
I hear you.
I'm proud to say I had the opportunity,
You're like,
but I was scared. Hey, I'm man enough to admit at 14 or 15 I was scared.
Oh,
Well,
I
check
would've been
this out,
too.
guys. You'll never believe this.
Yeah, how's he doing?
Jian Ghomeshi has written in his book 1982 that during his teenage years, he ensured that his clothes smelled of cigarette smoke to give him social credibility, even though he wasn't a smoker. So he wanted to fit in with the cool kids without actually harming his lungs.
Sign A that he's psychotic
Yeah, already pretending to be something he's not
Yes.
in front
Yeah.
of other people.
and is insecure.
He posed as a smoker. Now, you have in the past been a smoker. How would you feel if someone was pretending to be a smoker?
Yeah, you'd be
Andrew?
insulted.
It reminds me of myself in grade 9. I've got to be very
Oh,
honest.
no.
I did fake smoke in grade 9, and
Really?
then I started real smoking. But
Good, good,
I
good,
as you were reading that, I had flashbacks to being at the very side of Brockville Collegiate Institute with a cigarette, just going. Oh, I just
Yeah.
like how it smells and people
Right.
laughing in my face.
I do remember in
Kids
grade
can be
9
so cruel.
I know.
feeling
Fake
like
smoking.
if I smoked, I bet I'd like be more popular. Like, because they all go to Smoker's Corner and I'm not going. Like maybe it's because I don't smoke. Like I never smoked, but I do understand a little bit.
Oh,
that-
I started in grade 9 too, I think, and then that's when the girl said, "Let's have sex." I was like, these
Hey,
things are crazy.
We like the smell of your clothes, kid.
Yeah, I need to climb all over that stinky smell.
So it says that as a young teenager, he liked new wave music and rock music, and some of his favorite artists were David Bowie, cool, Talking Heads, great, and Rush. And when I read he was a Rush fan, I thought, alarm bells started going off in my head. This guy's trouble. Ghomeshi had an interest in
That's
music.
Mike's personal opinion on Rush.
Yeah. It's correct.
Tom Sawyer.
Ghomeshi had an interest in
Yeah.
music as a student, and in grade 9, as early as grade 9, he started a short-lived band with a few of his school friends called Urban Transit. And his parents were not into, an immigrant family. Maybe they want the children to do well. His parents weren't so supportive at first.
Yeah.
His father couldn't see the distinction between busking and begging, but eventually grew to support young Jian's choices. But I don't think they supported all the twists and turns of his career.
So, do you stick up for his music career as well, James?
No.
Just his interview style.
No, I'm just being brutally honest. I think he's a horrible, horrible man, clearly, but I thought he was a good host.
Now, there's some background here,
Like,
folks.
I think Michael Jackson was a good singer. Don't love what he did to little boys.
boo.
Now-
Don't love what he did to little boys, but as a singer, you can't deny it.
Some background is that James Hartnett once portrayed Jian Ghomeshi on stage.
This was a different
And all
time.
this makes a lot of sense now because he also portrayed Michael Jackson on stage.
No, I did
James,
not.
you
Yeah.
really are under some Stockholm
Yeah.
syndrome by some roles you've inhabited, I think.
Look, do you separate the art and the artist? And with podcasting, it's do you separate the podcasting from the podcaster? It's a personal question.
Can we get Billy Bob Thornton on the phone? I'd like to hear what he has to say about Jian as an
He's coming
interviewer.
up. He's coming
I
up
wonder if he
here.
has a vial of his neck in a necklace, like he did with Angelina Jolie.
Yeah, they were
Ex-wife.
in love.
So, an interesting thing I found on Jian Gomeshi's Wikipedia page is it really goes out of its way to underline his feminist credentials as if it was like rewritten before a trial, maybe, or something. So it says in 1985, Ghomeshi was a committed feminist and budding progressive activist when he went to York University in the theater program. In his memoir, 1982, he describes himself as a theater geek.
So you think that feminist part was added to his Wikipedia page?
It's
You know
sort of-
why? You know why he was a theater geek? Because his feminism was performative.
Oh,
very
like his
good.
smoking.
Look,
Like his
Andrew,
smoke-
let's be. I honestly think. Well, look, sometimes people who get busted for fucked up stuff were very, very much in a he doth protest too much kind of vibe before
Absolutely.
that. Sometimes the people who are the very sort of sanctimonious about how evolved they are end up covering for the fact that they're fucked up.
Well,
Yeah.
but paging Justin Baldoni of It Ends With Us drama,
I don't
which
know who
I'm
that
up to
is.
snuff on right now. Oh, you know that film with him and Blake Lively?
Oh
and,
yes.
and
Yes.
There's just been a smear campaign uncovered on her because he was being very inappropriate on set and everything. And anyway,
Well, Jian was a political young man at York University. I got to tell you some things I found out about. In 1990, he earned a record number of votes in his election to head the student government of York University, which he renamed the York Federation of Students. While he was president, he instituted bilingualism and advocated for abortion rights, free tuition, ending institutional racism.
These are the lawyer added this stuff.
Yeah. He also cut funding to student groups that were engaged in sexism, racism, homophobia, and other exclusionary measures. While criticizing fraternities and sororities for sexism, he supported the school's female-only women's center and was one of the few men allowed inside of it. Oh, no!
Yeah.
it has been breached. It has been breached. I remember.
Fox in the hen house.
Did you tell me about it? Oh my God! Werewolves of London. He was born there. But
Jian alert.
did you have a women's only space at your alma mater?
There must have been.
Because that
Yeah.
was a big thing.
Yeah.
And I was like, so what is it? It's just a room and just no men are allowed in it? It's like, yeah. And it's like, yeah, it's a women's only space. And I was like, so I remember how strident the rules were at Queens. I can only imagine what a big deal it was that Jian was
Yeah.
permitted inside at York.
I'm the only good man at York University, thank you. When Prime Minister Brian Mulroney this is shades of Luigi Mangione here. Check this out. When Prime Minister Brian Mulroney, may he rest in peace, visited campus, Ghomeshi hurled macaroni at him.
Brian Macaroni.
Yeah. And
I wonder if Jian and Ben ever had occasion to meet, and if that came
I
up.
wonder.
they must.
Ben
You
must be
threw
pissed.
macaroni at my
Must-
dad.
And then a few decades later, he died. Fuck you.
You killed him.
But as we'll learn, John sort of was part of a comedy band, and the kind of joke in a Moxie Fruvas song would be along the lines of throwing macaroni at Mulroney, you know?
Yeah.
Like, that's along the same
But it would be put
kind
to
of...
melody. How would that sound, James?
Oh, God. I don't know. I don't know Moxie Fruvas well enough, Michael.
No, you just make it up. Just, well.
How do their songs go?
King of
I don't
Spain.
know.
Once I was the king of Spain.
Once I threw macaroni at Mulroney.
Now I eat humble pie.
Now I'm in jail for doing bad things to women.
Doing way worse. Yeah.
He's not in jail. We'll get to that.
This
but-
is another thing that
Oh,
I
yeah.
thought.
Right.
Oh, no, he
Yeah.
is. He could be walking fucking by right now.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Turn that cat around.
Here's
Yeah.
another passage I feel was written by a legal team. Ghomeshi hurled. Progressives have since traced the roots of the activist student coup that subsequently took hold of York back to Gomeshi's radical leadership. So he's claiming. It appears that he's like he said.
He's too progressive for the students.
Yeah.
I bet he was so annoying as a student, like, letting women and people know he did all this like stuff.
he has a minor
Mhm.
in women's studies
Oh
at
my
York
God,
as
get
well.
out
I
of
mean,
here,
what
dude.
it sounds like is just someone who wanted attention at any fucking cost.
Yeah, it's
Mhm.
he's up his own ass.
Yeah.
Which ultimately was his Icarus moment.
He's pursuing all these like women accolades. Like it's bizarre.
I'm the only man allowed in every women's washroom in Toronto with my bongos. 'Cause he was the drummer in Moxie Fruvas. Yeah, he got a degree in political science and a double minor in history and women's studies. There you
Okay.
go.
And we don't even know what his mom did.
Yeah. So hypocrite
Like where
much?
the fuck is she?
Yeah. Music. He's a musical guy. Let's talk about that. We all love his music. In 1983, Ghomeshi and some friends formed his first band called Tall New Buildings, but they broke up in 1988.
Oh.
He formed a new band called the Chia Pets. But then
One of those.
they
Yeah.
Oh, chia.
They had great hair as well.
Mhm. They never took off the Chia Pets, but
They did.
don't worry. In 1989,
No.
Jian and the trio of the Chia Pets were joined by a fourth musician to form the politically satirical folk pop band. Say it with me.
Moxie
Fruvas.
So they were the first satirical folk
There was
band.
there's an
ever.
explosion of bands like that
Pop
at the time.
band.
BNL,
Yeah.
Arrogant Worms.
The Arrogant Worms.
Spin
That's,
Doctors?
I was more familiar with
Bowser
those.
and Blue.
The fucking
Spin
no,
Doctors were not
dude.
Canadian. That
You're
was-
talking it.
I know, but
You're talking about the Shuffle Demons.
Shuffle
oh, the
Demons?
Shuffle Demons, the Spadina Bus.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
a hit.
And we watched the video, and you said all the guys in the band look like they have skid marks on their underwear.
Well, I mean, you could apply that to a lot of people.
In
But
Toronto.
I mean, that would be the look at the time.
We've all
Bare
had
Naked
a
Ladies
skid
would be contemporaries.
Around
Yeah,
that time,
for sure.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah, I remember
I think it was
Yeah.
like 91.
I must have
The ye-
hated them.
the age of
when
Speaker's
they popped
Corner.
off.
yes. So I mean, Moxie Fruvas, if you're Canadian and of a certain age, you would have known some of their hits like King of Spain, the Gulf War song, and a couple other. My Baby Loves a bunch of authors.
There's one back in the 90s, then the 90 again. You know what I'm talking about? They had a sort of a slower song.
I don't know if
Stuck in the 90s?
Stuck in the 90s.
Ah, whatever.
Well, we can look it up after, but
Ugh, I just got the
I didn't
chills
know
for
that they
some
were.
reason.
I didn't know they were so prolific. They recorded 8 albums until
What the
between
fuck?
'89 and
This is back
2001.
before you could do it yourself.
Probably
Yeah.
more than the Beatles.
Yeah.
So Moxie Fruvas was originally inspired by street performing or busking bands.
Yeah, I'll say.
And Ghomeshi and his bandmates started out by playing on the streets of Toronto. He sang and played drums, and he was credited during the early days of Moxie Fruvas as Jian rather than Jian.
oh.
But after the band's first album, he reverted to the original Persian spelling of his name, Jian.
Oh. Were there any women in the band?
No.
Oh, just men. Okay, just checking.
Mike, did you? Sorry to you may not have this, but do you know why they came up with the name Moxie
I do.
Fruvas? Oh,
please.
Oh, do you?
You have the floor.
You don't know
I
this?
don't know.
I did a little of my own pre-research last night because
Thank you.
When we were talking about this and I said I was more familiar with the arrogant worms instead, was like, well, Moxie Fruvis, maybe I'll recognize something. And then no, they just came up with Moxie Fruvis because they wanted something complicated that didn't mean anything.
It really reminds me of Jogenfruz.
Well, dude, Haagen-Dazs, I think, was made up completely by people who had no connection
that's maybe
to.
what I'm thinking of.
Yeah. it
Reminds me
was-
also of the Dadaist art movement where they just picked a random word from the dictionary that had no meaning.
Yeah.
Because I thought it was like frivolous. But
Right.
Anyway.
I thought it was like Norwegian for nerds attack.
Emphasis on attack, but we'll get to that.
So I was shocked to hear they had 8 albums and they were as prolific as they were. This blew me away and made me mad. A year after forming, Moxie Fruvis was opening for headline performers like Bob Dylan. And it made me think there should be the sequel to Complete Unknown should focus entirely on Bob Dylan meeting the young Moxie Fruvis backstage before a gig, and he's like, well, that song King of Spain really groovy, man.
Yeah. Are you the worst guy I've ever met?
What the fuck are you doing opening for me?
Paging Ben Stagger at the next live Evil Men. That's what he'll be doing.
There could be a
That'd be
play
sick.
about the meeting of Bob and Moxie Fruvis.
But do you
It'd be
think
amazing.
Jian Ghomeshi is the worst man Bob Dylan has ever stumbled across in his varied life?
Well, he's looked in the mirror, hasn't he?
Oh!
Okay, we're gonna have to edit that out.
I am Team Joan Baez.
OMG.
Friggin' Team
All right.
Joan fucking Baez.
Joan Baez.
So,
Yeah.
speaking of incredibly successful musicians, Moxie Fruvis sold over 50,000 copies of their debut independent EP in 1992.
Not bad.
Their
Yeah,
debut
it's not bad.
debut album Bargainville went platinum in Canada in 1994 after selling over 100,000 copies.
Oh, that's platinum in Canada?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
The band was nominated.
Peterborough bought it.
Hey, that guy opened. Or those guys opened for Bob fucking Dylan.
That guy was nice to my dad.
The band was nominated for a Juno Award for Band of the Year in 1994. What a year for Moxie Fruvis 1994 was.
Yeah.
Who
Right.
won the stand-up comedy album that year?
Andre Philippe Gagnon.
Probably.
Yeah.
That fucking guy.
Honestly.
Over the course of their 8 albums, they sold over 500,000 copies of their albums in Canada and the U.S. And I didn't remember this. They made an appearance in 1994 on Late Night with Conan O'Brien.
Oh.
Oh, sweet.
Well,
A lot of Canadian bands did Conan
Yeah.
that were kind of indie bands here.
Can you
Yeah.
imagine if they had an SNL credit? Can you imagine if Lord was like, let's take a chance?
Oh, I think we should also include our friends band, what we were talking about earlier, Corky and the Juice Pigs.
That would have been around the
Oh.
same time.
They would have been around the
Yeah.
same time, but they
Would
were
they
like
have been a little
straight
too
up
comedy?
very
Cullen-
funny.
Sean Cullen, a guy who's been a guest on
That's what I was
this
gonna say.
show. It was his
Fantastic.
band.
They were like
singer.
fully
Yeah,
comedy.
fantastic singer.
Yeah.
But they were like
Hilarious
fully.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it was still like, yeah, because they were sort of like the better version of, they were the best version of like, oh, you want to be funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like when you
they
think
still
of
did,
Bare
like,
Naked
you
Ladies,
know.
like they're eccentric and like but like a Tenacious D or Corky and the Juice Pigs are like this is meant to be comedy.
Yeah.
Hey, we're overlooking a band that was on the back end of that wave. Michael's old band, the Gentlemen Callers.
That's right.
Yeah, yeah. Played my Frosh Week before I knew him.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I
Oh
did
my
not know
God.
Mike, and
Yeah.
at my Frosh Week, Mike and Terrence and another guy
Alex.
played these funny songs, and I thought it was extremely funny, and I still
Yeah.
remember the concert well. I didn't
I
know
met Mike and Terrence first as
Really?
Gentlemen Callers.
Yeah.
Really? I did
That's
not
true.
know that.
Yes,
Yeah, and it
I
was-
have my roots in a musical comedy trio.
I
yeah.
did not
Yeah.
know
Yeah,
that
yeah.
page out of your
Yes.
book.
Oh.
And now you're making music videos on Instagram.
And thank God for
Why
that.
are you? I'm trying.
Alone in my
help you.
apartment.
Once you figure out your lighting, once you figure out the
Yes,
lighting,
Andrew's helping me with the
bitch.
lighting.
There you
So,
go.
Do you guys remember after things went south for Jian Ghomeshi, amidst all of the bad
Yeah.
vibes,
Oh,
there was a tape that was in the news, a videotape revealed in 2014, where Jian Ghomeshi was on camera disdaining his audience, stating on camera that people paying to see Moxie Fruvis shows were, quote, losers and fucking idiots.
No way.
No, I
Oh.
don't remember this.
But he's so a type of guy I know where he's just like trying so hard to be I guess it's something he's not, like you were talking about very early on with the cigarette smoke and everything, and trying so hard to be, I guess, the 1990s version of, I guess, kind of woke or whatever, and like hating his fans. Like it all seems so phony.
This music
Yeah.
is silly. It's not really what I'm into. It's kind of,
Yeah, like that's your music, you dumbass.
Yeah. And on this one point, I hate to agree with.
Yeah, what the fuck?
I hate to agree with him on anything.
It's like the Pied Piper hating the rats.
That is a classic reference. More fables.
I am a
what I say.
fablehead, honestly.
So here's trouble. Trouble begins brewing in 1999. While Fruvis was still active, thank God, Ghomeshi began a correspondence with a 16-year-old girl who was a fan of Moxie Fruvis. This continued for
But
3
he hated her, probably.
Yeah. Why do you like this stuff? I hate you.
Oh, you like me? You're dumb.
The relationship, the correspondence,
True.
continued for 3 years and included some in-person meetings where Ghomeshi is alleged to have become handsy with her. In 2002, they had a falling out, and the woman broke into Gomeshi's email account. He sought to have her banned from FruCon, a Moxie Fruvis convention.
No.
And he wanted to press criminal
my God.
charges against her. She was allowed to attend FruCon, and he dropped the issue after
my
the
God.
girl's father confronted him for carrying on a relationship with an underage girl.
Can we take a moment here and just
FruCon.
sort of reflect on like how we would feel if we found out we were banned from FruCon?
I assume that I am.
Well, now all of us are.
Yeah,
but
we're already banned
yeah.
anyways because we're not little girls.
Yeah.
I feel like
I'm the only man allowed at FruCon.
And about women's only spaces, women's toilets, and FruCon.
I picture male fans of Moxie Fruvis are the same guys that wore those like Jingle Bell Jester hats while snowboarding.
I was imagining the people at FruCon have like wearing vests and parachute pants.
Yes,
what I mean?
and genie boots.
Yeah.
Crushed velvet as far as the eye can see. A whole
Opposite
new
Where's
world.
Waldo? Everyone looks the same except there's...
Yeah, it's like it's okay. It's a bad word I'm about to use. It's antiquated. I don't
Go
mean
ahead.
it this way, but
Don't worry.
in the early '90s, it conjures up the image I'm talking about. Moxie Fruvis did access fashion-wise, like you're sort of saying, James. It was really cheesy and especially art school kid-ish, but a faux gypsy attire.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
yes.
what we need to paint. That
Yeah,
picture.
so you know what I'm picturing right now? Natalie Merchant. Do you remember Natalie
Yes.
Merchant?
10,000
And she had a
Maniac.
song called Carnival. There you go.
Yeah, that's FruCon. All
That's
those
FruCon.
people are.
Well, it's kind of a
Yeah.
busking look.
Crash
as well,
Test
Yeah.
I
Dummies,
guess.
I
Yes.
think, would fall
Dude,
under that.
Yeah.
I keep saying, dude.
They would be other peers.
But you know, like an actor,
Moxie Fruvis.
like an acting guy with like, you know, his shirt, no undershirt, just an unbuttoned shirt down to the navel, so chest showing,
Or even just a vest.
yeah,
No shirt.
right, long hair, yeah. We're really going back to this time now. Big boots, but untied, and the pants are baggy, billowing
Very
over the
dangerous.
boots.
Yeah.
Those guys.
Aaron Eves.
Does that make sense?
Yes,
Yep,
absolutely.
Aaron Eves, shout out our friend. He sent me recently. He might have sent it to us, you guys too. A weird documentary that's on YouTube of the Crash Test Dummies lead singer solo tour
Brad
across
Robertson.
Canada. I watched like
No
40 minutes.
way.
I don't know why.
From the 90s or...
He's like, late 90s, and he's walking around Toronto in the winter, and he gets drunk, and he wakes up hungover the next morning, and he goes to like a
What did I
diner
drink
and eats
last
a
night?
grilled cheese, and he's
It
a
sounds
wild
like
guy.
Genuinely, what I do as a standout.
It's a strange watch, but he's kind of an interesting guy.
How long do you
I
think
love
it took-
that song. Come on, that song. And
good.
Superman. That song.
That
Those songs
song
are
rocks.
killer.
There was this girl.
Girl.
Yeah. Oh, it's all coming back to me now.
Yeah.
And that's a great song, too. Go on.
Superman never made any money.
Wow, look at
Saving
that.
the world from Solomon Grundy.
How long do you think it took to...
Sometimes I declare the world will never meet another man like him. Oh, I'm crying.
That was terrific.
You guys should do a stage show as the two Brad Robertson. You should tour Canada.
You know his name.
How long do you think they had to leave the windows open at the convention center to air out FruCon?
Oh, not. They're still open.
Oh my God! Remember the Metallica riot in Montreal? That was
How
FruCon.
stinky it would have been.
All these little pits of fire all over the floor after FruCon.
FruCon.
FruCon sounds like some sort of like
It sounds
Fruitopia seminar.
It sounds worse than like if there was an official pedophile convention on the dark web.
I'm not. Oh God.
Ugh. Anyway,
FruCon.
after Moxie Fruvis went on hiatus and everyone in Canada was sad in 2001, Jian Ghomeshi.
Also, FruCon jokes aside,
Yes.
we shouldn't gloss over. He was already being shitty.
He was bad.
There's evidence of
bad
him being
dude,
shitty
yeah.
to a young girl.
Nevertheless, he started forging a media career now that he was post-Fru, no more FruCons.
What year was this? 2000?
2001. In 2002,
Oh, before September or after?
yeah, they broke up as the second plane hit the tower.
Okay. So there's an alibi.
We're done.
Once I was the king. Oh no! So 2002, guys, can we be serious for a second? He became host of CBC News World's show Play, which was an arts show.
How is that punctuated?
Just the word play, no exclamation
Oh, I
point.
thought it was lowercase p LAY.
No,
period.
but I wouldn't have been surprised.
I wouldn't either.
He was writing columns for the Toronto Star and the Globe and Mail. He was on fire. He hosted a radio series called 50 Tracks and a series called The National Playlist on CBC Radio. Then, in 2007, Jian Ghomeshi became the host of CBC Radio's flagship arts program, Q. He co-created it on CBC Radio. As the host of Q, he interviewed like musicians, artists, writers such as Woody Allen, Paul
Birds of a
McCartney,
feather.
Salman Rushdie, Barbara Walters, William Shatner, Jay-Z, and Leonard Cohen.
I would kind of say that, there isn't a late night. I mean, there have been some kind of late night talk shows here, but often there's not. And it would kind of be like I feel like when a celeb was in Toronto, that's the show they would do. Him and George Stroumboulopoulos, I guess.
Well, after open mic with the late Mike Bullard.
After Mike Bullard.
We're losing all of our heroes.
If I can just, well, yeah.
Jimmy Carter, Mike Bullard.
Jimmy Carter, Mike Bullard, Jian Ghomeshi, good as dead. But the thing that I want to just circle back to is that like he was able to just basically, based off of this like little novelty group of buskers,
Exactly,
he was able to be like, okay, Toronto Star, I'll write for you.
Now I'm a serious
Like,
arts
Yeah.
like
I see what you're
just
saying.
like
kingmaker.
Can you imagine? That will never happen again. That would be like with all due respect to him, like Jacob Bolshin being given like a column for like, I mean, he should have one, but so the fuck should we, like,
We all should.
a
Yeah.
lot of
We all
people.
should.
But it's like, it's just like back in the day, like how that would have worked. That
I
like
get what you're saying.
that pipeline or
Well,
whatever.
let's go back to.
I got asked once to write a National Post column, and I did. But I don't think I did a good job, and I was never asked again. It was very stressful.
You weren't center right enough.
Probably. But going back to what you were saying about like those like people with like dark tendencies tend to hide it by being proactively out loud about how good they are.
Yes.
Another thing about those sort of like sociopathic charlatans that I've noticed is a vast population of simps always adore them.
Yeah, because
Right?
because people are.
Why
sort
are
of,
they always tricked?
Well, we all have some kind of cynicism, which probably doesn't always serve us very well. But I feel like
Yeah.
we're always naturally cynical to like, oh, that's such a good guy, really.
Yeah.
But some people, I think, don't have that to the degree we do.
Well, it's interesting. Those
Yeah.
people, I talk to sort of civilian friends of mine about this all the time, that you just really, they don't last in comedy because they're just rooted out, Like you can't really name anyone, well, here anyway, who would be a sociopath, Like, but maybe it's a little bit different now with, I'm just thinking about some big names in the States, and I'm like, who are able to come up via TikTok, I guess. But by and large, you really need to have some sort of people, like character reference to get through in comedy.
Right. There was a
Apparently you don't-
reckoning, sort of,
that
which
you don't need
thank
to.
God.
Thinking about
Yeah.
James, Mike, and I just individually right now, I think the three of us are almost naturally too hard on ourselves to become those egomaniacs that lead to that danger zone.
Well, you're also in Canada.
in Canada.
You know, in 2000.
Oh God! Imagine we had unfettered, unchecked power in the states.
It's
We'd be vice president right now.
Well, go ahead.
No, it's I heard an interview with
we
Adam.
defer to the guy who looks like JD Vance. Yes.
and thinks like him.
Hillbilly Elegy. Yeah. What was it?
What's the
East
dude-
Caledon, but please.
Paladin Elegy. Oh my God! Who was your mama? Peepaw,
Oh my
Peepaw.
God.
It was Glenn Close as well.
Oh, she regrets that. Let me tell
I
you.
heard an interview
Canadian
with
version is Glenn Farr.
Glenn Foster.
Oh, Glenn.
Canadian
Speaking
close.
of Canadian comedians who don't get their dues.
Oh my God, that fucking guy. Oh, see you in hell.
I was just gonna say, I heard an interview with Adam McKay, and he said that once he got really rich and famous after Legend of Ricky Bobby, he's like, you kind of have to dive in hard to a cause, or you get really weird because you have all this money and power, and you can do anything you want, and it's like that's why he thinks so many celebrities go hard into causes, because you either do that or you become a really weird person.
Like Nicolas Cage.
Yeah, or most celebrities, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, guys, speaking of having huge influence and power, by 2013, Q had a weekly audience of more than 2.5 million listeners weekly in Canada and 550,000 in the United States
That's
of America.
sincerely-
That's 5 in
Really
Canada?
big.
That's
It was
sincerely-
very
That's
popular.
like
Yeah.
that's like 25% of the population.
Yeah. It's the biggest thing that Canada's ever enjoyed together.
It's really
Aside
the
from
last,
hockey?
and I mean we'll get to this when we talk about his downfall. Spoiler alert, evil men listeners who don't know how this panned out, but took quite a downfall. But it's just like that ubiquity will never be seen again in this country. Like you will never have a homegrown person, with
Never
all
let
due
someone
respect
get
to
that-
Mark Critch,
Right.
who will be that ubiquitous among the Canadian population again.
Maybe we will.
Well,
Yes.
who brought up Billy Bob Thornton before? I'm going to talk about Billy
Me,
Bob
me,
Thornton
me.
now. So in 2009, if this sort of became a viral moment, I think even in America,
Yes.
people heard about this. So Billy Bob Thornton was a guest on Q on April 8th, 2009. He appeared with his band, the Boxmasters, and during the interview, he was answering questions weird and was really cagey and like being uncommunicative and like sort of giving like one-word answers, because when Jian Ghomeshi introduced him, he mentioned that like he's a famous actor and now he does music as well. And apparently Jian Ghomeshi had agreed to not mention that Billy Bob Thornton made films and was an actor. And so Billy Bob Thornton got mad that he was introduced as an actor, not a musician.
Sure
on
didn't
the
like
show.
those front mashed potatoes or whatever.
Yeah, I
French
like my
fried
potatoes with a bit of gravy.
Yeah.
I mean, Billy Bob Thornton did come off like a complete asshole in that.
And to Jian Ghomeshi.
yeah,
Like that was the thing anyway. But that must have been quite for someone, once we found out what Jian was up to behind closed doors. I mean, that must have been a real taste of his own medicine.
I feel
Old
like
BBT.
I feel like this was written by him, and it says it was on Wikipedia. After that show aired, Canadians responded to Ghomeshi's professionalism
Oh my
and
God,
the
fuck
manner
you.
in which he handled the situation, and the show received more than 100,000 emails with almost unanimous praise for the host.
I mean, I do remember it was like a thing. People
It
were
was,
like, "This
yeah.
guy
Yeah.
looked great," and Billy Bob Thornton looked like a jerk.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You guys read books? You guys like to read the great classics, the beautiful works of literature?
What are you reading right now, James?
I'm reading a book about mushrooms called Entangled Life.
Oh.
Chris, what are you reading right now?
I have that book. I'm reading Blood Meridian by Cormac McCarthy, and it is violent.
I'm reading poorly. I'm reading Burmese Days by George Orwell. How about you, Andrew?
I'm reading Hello Molly, a memoir by SNL star Molly Shannon.
Molly Shannon. Oh, well,
Nice.
She's the best.
It's a great book, and she is just such a unique brand of autism. Like
Yeah.
she is just so, oh my God, just so unfiltered.
She's great
Yeah.
on the
amazing.
other two.
I gotta
as
get
well.
Oh,
that for
yeah,
Catherine.
that's a
Yeah,
good
I don't
show.
think she's ever really found a vehicle that properly showcases her. Her movie, directed by Bruce McCullough, speaking of Canadians, Superstar is probably the closest thing to really.
Yeah.
But
Well,
yeah.
But everything she shows up in, she destroys. Like she, in a good way.
I'm just going to interrupt. Do you think the parking don't have to pay anymore at 9?
Yeah.
Okay, thank God.
Because when I
Sorry.
did the thing, it
Okay.
stopped at 9.
Well, speaking of great books, the reason I brought up books is
Oh.
because in 2012, Jian Ghomeshi released his literary debut, 1982, a creative nonfiction memoir about his youth, growing up in Canada as a Persian Canadian, his attempt to fit in, and how much he loves David Bowie. The book received mixed reviews from critics. In 2014, Ghomeshi was set to host the Scotiabank Giller Prize Awards Gala. That's sort of like our Booker Man Prize, but it's heavily funded by banks that invest in Israel. He was replaced last minute by comedian Rick Mercer.
Oh
And everyone
Famous
was like,
rival.
Why was he replaced? That same month, he was replaced as the host of the CBC competition Canada Reads by Wob Canoe, the previous year's winner. And people were like, why was he replaced? That's odd.
I love Wob Canoe, but
Yeah.
I don't understand.
And in December 2014, all became clear because the CBC announced that it would not be rebroadcasting Ghomeshi's interviews, and it would be removing them from the CBC's online archive. Reactions to this decision were swift and varied, and after further deliberations by CBC management, the decision was reversed. So some weird stuff is going on. In the spring of 2014, Ghomeshi advised his bosses at the CBC that the Toronto Star was looking into allegations by an ex-girlfriend that he had engaged in non-consensual rough sex. But he denied the accusation. He hired a crisis management team to defend himself and the CBC. In early summer 2014, this is the not fun part of the episode, reporter Jesse Brown, another cool guy.
Yes, I was just about to say.
In 2014, reporter Jesse Brown contacted the CBC and warned that Ghomeshi's behavior may have crossed into his work environment. The corporation investigated and concluded that there weren't any workplace complaints against Jian Ghomeshi. He denied the accusations again. The Star declined to go forward with the story. Also around this time, Jian Ghomeshi went to the CBC, his bosses, and showed them like videos on his cell phone, a CBC-owned cell phone, of him having sex. That he was like, this is consensual, but it's rough sex, and he showed it to his bosses, just to sort of like clear the air and show
That's
that
crazy.
everything was like above board.
I'd heard that there were photos, and they were of like severe bruises, and it was just like, and this can be consensual. Like it was presented like that.
It says that there was graphic evidence that he had caused physical injury to a woman. According to Vice, Ghomeshi showed his bosses lewd text messages on a CBC-owned phone and graphic personal sex videos. So this was him trying to get ahead of it, but arguably making it worse, but also strange no matter how you look at it.
Never shown videos of me having sex to any boss I've ever had. I have to be honest.
I remember one
maybe.
time when I was working at Second
Be a little
Cup.
And you got promoted to manager.
To croissant stalker.
So in
Now you
October,
stalked the croissant.
Yeah.
And they need to get a restraining order. Anyway,
I've actually never filmed myself.
well,
Me neither.
it's never too late.
Yes. Moving forward. Now that I am my own boss.
Yes.
on October 24th, 2014, Jian Ghomeshi announced he was taking an indefinite leave of absence from the CBC to deal with personal matters. 2 days later, the CBC terminated his employment, with the spokesperson saying information came out to their attention recently that in the CBC's judgment, it precludes us from continuing our relationship with Jian. He subsequently, and do you guys remember this? He posted,
Absolutely.
to try and get ahead of news stories, he posted this big Facebook
Yes.
sort of
Post.
explanation.
Screed
Yep.
to try and get ahead of it,
massive.
and talked about how he was suing them for bad faith and wrongful termination.
And he said, like, look, we called ourselves our little 50 Shades of Grey thing. Like, he's really, like, being cute about what happened.
He said it was basically
People were commenting too,
a jilted
on his
ex-girlfriend was sad and mad that he had broken off their like dominant submissive relationship, and she was trying to smear him, and he framed the whole story as if he was being persecuted for his sexuality, i.e. being into like wearing leather and dominant submissive sex, as if he was being persecuted for that.
Yes, like it was S&M as we know it, but then when we found out more, yeah, it wasn't like
well, there turned out to be a lot of people with stories
Yes.
to share.
Yeah.
that it wasn't so consensual, and then it really
they were surprised.
I think that Michael.
rudely.
I don't want to step on Michael's
I'll get to this here. So he
synopsis.
after this had happened, he got fired. He filed a $55 million lawsuit against the CBC, alleging
Chump
that they
change to those fuckers.
alleging that the corporation misused personal and confidential information provided to it in confidence. He also filed a union grievance alleging wrongful dismissal, and stated through his lawyer that he doesn't engage in non-consensual role play or sex, and any suggestion to the contrary is defamatory. But then he withdrew his lawsuit on November 25th, 2014, and had to pay the CBC $18,000 in legal costs. Another sad blow. Around this time, Penguin Random House Canada, his publisher, announced it would not be publishing his second book. So there's never been... Isn't that crazy to think there's never been a sequel to 1982?
What was it, 1983?
So let's just summarize. The main crime that he was doing often was surprising these people that he was
Basically,
dating
yes. It's
with
mine-
being rough with them basically out of the blue.
It's
and in a
mine-
way that hurt them.
Yes, it's my understanding that he would take them home and out of nowhere, like slap them right after
Yeah.
he. Of course, I'm sure that are you gonna talk about the teddy bear?
No. I
Okay.
was just going to say that, so between November 2014 and January 2015, he was charged by 6 women with 6 counts of sexual assault and 1 count of overcoming resistance by choking. Don't know what that is, but it sounds bad. He was released on $100,000 bail, had to surrender his passport, stay in Ontario, and live with mum. What is the teddy bear story? It rings a bell, but I don't
Big
remember.
Ears Teddy. That doesn't ring a bell. He
I
had
remember.
Does
a
ring a
childhood
bell.
teddy bear who he would turn around when he would do the deed.
Oh.
That's why I made reference earlier to, is he stalking us? Is he going to come in here? We better turn that cat. We're looking at a cat right now.
Was there a
Turn
camera
that-
in it? Or
No, just he didn't want his
Mm.
childhood teddy bear witnessing this vile
Right.
side, this Mr. Hyde
Right.
of his Dr. Jekyll. He was only,
Prince Andrew also loves like stuffed animals.
well, again, birds of a
There you go.
fucking feather.
Yeah.
So anyway, so it strikes me that I remember there were a number of accounts that came out that said that he would just take them there, and then once they said, "What the fuck did you just do?" he'd get really upset and he'd sort of have a tantrum, like harumph,
Right.
get out of my house now, like you really hurt my feelings by not being into me smacking you in the face as like literally the first move. There was another person who said that she did have a consensual thing with him,
Right.
and she said he's a dom and blah blah blah, and I am a sub and I'm into that, but it's not for everyone or something. But so we'll get to the trial, I'm sure.
Well,
but-
the trial began in February of 2016. His lawyer, who's kind of notorious in Canada, Marie Heinen.
Marie Hennen.
She's a defense lawyer who defends high-profile people who are in trouble. Basically.
Yeah, I think I can tell you a lot about Marie Hennen because, oh boy, what a complicated female antihero, right up my fucking alley. First of all, what is Marie Hennen's connection to the comedy community in Toronto, you might ask? Her younger brother Pete used to be a comic, frequently appeared at Spirits. That's right. For many a night, Marie Hennen would have watched the late Joanna Downey.
Oh, and maybe
talking
me,
to-
maybe you,
and maybe you, and
Maybe all of us.
anyone who would have performed there.
I bombed so hard there one time. I hope
Perhaps Marie
Jian
Hennen was
Ghomeshi's
there.
lawyer wasn't there.
And maybe she opened a file on you.
Oh,
but
God.
The bulk of her business, she's criminal defense. The bulk of their business comes from malpractice suits because that's who has the fucking money. But every so often, a high-profile case like this, or there was some hockey coach who was accused of something, and he was able to pay. And I don't know, you got the money, she's got the time.
Right. So she got access to all these messages that Jian had been sending to his accusers, and they were presented during the trial. And the judge said, after looking at all the messages, that the messages were deceptive and manipulative evidence, and they were inconsistent, and they were weak, and that it was deception, and that these messages had irreparably weakened the prosecution's case. And in March of 2016, he was acquitted of all charges on the basis that there was insufficient evidence to establish
Because there
proof.
were messages after the incidents of certain
There were
women reaching out to him again, right? And they used that to frame them as... But victims do that sometimes, apparently?
Well,
'Cause
listen,
they
anyways, you process things differently.
Yeah,
I
of
think
course.
that's
It
pretty
makes
proven.
sense.
But there were in terms of a case, now there was a very high-profile complainant, I believe, is the case would be, who we don't want to put names on record.
Yeah, well,
'cause she was public.
I do have. So there was a second trial for one additional charge of sexual assault in June 2016, but in May of 2016, the Crown withdrew the last remaining charge against a producer of Q after Ghomeshi signed a peace bond and agreed to formally apologize to the victim.
No, that's not what I'm talking about. So there was an actress who's from Trailer Park Boys.
Oh, right.
So she was the sort of face of all of this, and I do remember specifically she was saying the incident in question took place at the Banff Television Festival, blah 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 blah, and there was just a very damning handwritten note that she did. This is just taking a real true crime slant, evil men listeners, but there was a handwritten note in which she said, I remember specifically, I miss your hands. And she had no memory of writing that. And a lot of the time that's a trauma response.
Right,
and that is
right.
fair, but that is not great in court. And so that was kind of where you saw that, Marie Hennon, is just kind of like, she's gonna have her shit together.
Yeah,
She's
she's
just
gonna
coming
eat
at
it.
you. Because I can remember I was out in Halifax playing the Yuck Yucks out there during this time, and I was just at the Spring Garden Good Life, and I was just refreshing my Twitter from the CBC court reporters who were covering it. It was just, and I'm just actually surprised that this hasn't gotten the Ryan Murphy true crime treatment.
Right.
I think that it's ripe for that. But is there an actor handsome enough to portray Jian?
Would you consider stepping back into the role, James?
Yeah, James.
I would consider it for the right price. I might need to grow my hair out.
So he was not sent to prison. Charges were dropped. But his career, his reputation obviously were in tatters. I remember there being like weird sightings all the time in the aftermath of this. Like we saw him at the beach, but he wasn't ready to hang up his headphones and microphone quite yet. In April of 2017, do you remember this? He launched a podcast called The
Ideation Project.
Yes.
I thought we were going to say that.
What a name.
The Ideation Project. It was a music, it was a podcast that he wrote the music for and hosted, and he talked about cultural and newsworthy topics. So basically, like he was doing Q from his mother's basement, literally.
It lasted one episode before it was deplatformed because of all of the outcry. So the podcast provider, who are you guys with? Acast?
No, Sonar, the Sonar network.
Okay. Well,
They would never.
hopefully
No.
Sonar flags any emails coming in from him saying looking for a new network host.
Hey.
Know anyone? But so the podcast, the platform or whatever was inundated with so many things that they yanked it. But it lasted one episode. I did listen to it.
His mother unplugged his microphone from the laptop and was like, we're not ordering another season of this.
Basically. But it was pretty bad.
So we're almost at the end here. Strangely, in September of 2018, the New York Review of Books published an essay by Jian Ghomeshi, a 3,000-word essay called Reflections from a Hashtag, about him being the center of a storm of criticism and sort of being like a canceled man. Like this was early in the cancel culture sort of discussion. And rightfully so, there was like a flood of complaints and criticism rolling into the New York Review of Books about like why would you platform this guy, and the editor was fired, and they apologized for publishing the essay and also published a list of the allegations in the online version of the essay. He's still a media figure. Now you watch YouTube? Do you guys watch YouTube or listen to podcasts?
I'm familiar
I
with
do,
that.
yes. Linus Tech Tips.
Are you familiar with
Shout out DDP. He knows what I'm talking about.
Well, James, are you familiar with the YouTube series and podcast Roka, an English language podcast aimed at the Iranian diaspora?
I've thought about checking it out, but haven't got around to it.
Well, he is the host and executive producer of Roka.
Had no idea.
Yeah, I looked at it.
Does
just
it have
for
an
quick
audience?
Research. The latest episode had 8,000 views.
It's not that bad.
I mean, yeah, I guess.
You could do worse. You could do better, but you could do worse.
Good. That is the end of his. That's what he's doing right now in media. The last thing I can tell you is that in 2022, this was a big story. The actress and director Sarah Polley published her autobiographical essay collection, "Run Towards the Danger," in which she wrote that when she was 16 and Jian was 28, he sexually assaulted her on a date in 1995, and she said that she had wanted to speak out earlier, but had been dissuaded from doing so by family and friends.
Damn. Well, pretty damn damning.
Well, I feel like we ended the episode on a bit of a downer because of how dark
Inevitable,
it got.
but still a great job, Mike.
Thank you, and Andrew, thank you for
Thank
suggesting
you.
Jian
Thank you.
Ghomeshi.
I mean, the point of it all is that, like, there will just that level of ubiquity and, like, that being accommodated, that sort of bad behavior, which had been known before. Like, I knew people who worked for Q who, like, the weirdest thing that he did is that he would, like, just in meetings, like pitch meetings, he would just change his shirt. Like, he would just, like, get topless and put on different shirts. And someone brought that up, like, maybe don't do that in the meetings. And he was incredibly offended. But, you know, just them bending over for that because, like, well, he's a star. We need to let them get away
He
with it.
used
It's
to
like,
be in Moxie
there's
Fruvis,
just-
you know?
There's no way Tom Power is, you know.
I
pulling-
know Tom Power a little bit, and he is the most polar opposite of what we have just learned. He is the
Well.
nicest, sweetest man.
And you know why?
Why?
Newfoundland.
He's from Newfoundland.
Jian Gomeshi's biggest mistake was not being from the Rock.
Yep. Great big C. You next Tuesday.
Well, gentlemen, is it time to bring out the...
Evilometer.
Oh, here comes Evilometer, and it's got a pair of bongos, and it's brandishing. What's that? Oh, it's your degree, your minor in women's studies, and you have a key. What is that for? Oh, you're the only male robot with a key to the women's washroom. Oh God, Evilometer.
Okay.
You idiot.
Bravo, Mike. So who wants to go first? This is not an easy score-giving
Andrew.
situation. Andrew, you go first. Could you give him a score on the Evilometer out of 10? One least evil.
Who has been a 1 and who has been a 10 in recent memory?
Here's how I approach it. You know, like 10 I leave for genocidal
Yes.
leaders. 1 is like, you know, I don't know, an actor who's just kind of a dink. So that's how I kind of approach it.
I'm going to give... I'm going to
It's a tough
qualify
one
this.
because it's so, disgusting what he
I'm going to
did.
give him a 4, and it's going to be because, despite all expectations to the contrary, he actually did, aside from the ideation project and whatever this Iranian thing is, he really kept his fucking mouth shut after that, and I was stunned. I was like, when is he coming back? He can't stay out of the project. Like, there's no way. Like, taking his microphone away, that's the biggest thing. Like, that narcissist, he's going to need to, and he actually had the discipline to, like, follow his lawyer's advice, and that is quite commendable for a personality like that. So I'm going to downgrade him to a 4 because of that.
Very fair.
Wow.
Game recognizes game.
Okay.
Christopher, do you want to go second?
No, I don't.
I'm gonna go 7. I think he's closer to the darker side of things, but because of the violence, I don't know.
I'm upgrading mine to 6. If Chris is
No,
going
no,
See,
no.
this is the thing. It's hard
No.
to stay
no,
true.
it's
'cause
your
you could-
scale is your scale, and
Yeah.
like each number has depth to it and weight to it.
And the truth is, if you go by
I
hard...
was thinking 8 even, and then I put it back to a 7, basically because of your score, and also because it is true. Like, if you're talking about like some sort of like despotic dictator who had like hundreds of thousands of people killed at a 10, then you know,
Exactly.
like
John is basically a 4.
guy who hasn't killed someone is not a 9.
Exactly. John is
And
basically
he
a
hasn't killed anyone as far
Exactly.
as we
we
know.
know of.
In that context, he's
Yeah.
basically a 4, but it's hard not to let your emotions drift it up because he's a nasty...
The actions I don't really like, and it hits close to home, obviously, because it's we all live here in this city, and it was Canadian, and I don't know. So I 7 feels safe
All right.
to me, but for this one,
I agree with Chris, and I agree with Andrew. Here, if coldly logical, I do think he's probably a 4, but I'm bumping him up to a 6 because it's just so unpleasant and horrible. So I give him a
close to
6. I'll give him a 6.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give him a damn 8 because of his awful behavior, but also his personality. I would have hated to have known him as a teenager or at York University, and the music he made. So 8.
this is all valid.
Well, damn. That was amazing. Andrew, thank you for joining us. Mention your album again.
Before I do, can I just pose a question?
Mm.
Do you think that Jian Ghomeshi is going to listen to this?
I thought that about 20 minutes ago, and the answer, I think, is yes.
Oh.
Hi, Jian.
But I don't, oh, God, like, I don't want him to. I hope he doesn't.
We'll put a warning on the episode.
In any
Please
event,
don't listen.
well,
in any event-
I don't want to,
in any event, JG, my album is called Pomp and Circumcised, and it's streaming everywhere.
Excellent. I'll put the damn links to it in the show notes. And
If you're in the City of Angels, my show Super Bloom is back up and running on the auspicious date of January 6th at the Elysian Theater.
And we do have a decent number of LA listeners, so I can't wait till they go.
It's
see
mainly
it.
just for you three if you're down there.
I'd love to do the show next time.
That is not an offer that
come
goes
out.
out to other comics listening to this, though. So
Wow.
Your inbox is just
We're
filling up. I can
lucky.
hear it right now.
We're
No.
grateful.
And listeners, please don't forget January 25th at Comedy Bar in Toronto. We're doing a live show. They're always amazing. You can look them up on YouTube. You can look up the old ones. So please come buy tickets to that and check us out.
It's a good antidote to the winter blahs.
And check us out on Patreon because we're about to talk more to Andrew on there.
woo!
That was another great episode of.
Evil Man.